So definitely I don't have all the spice from diving into a game and looking at all the mechanics as lots of leaders, lots of nations that you play differently with lots of different stats and all. And yet after 2 hours, I was like, no, the hook was not like a video. You need a strong hook to get you into the game and say, yeah, I want to know more. I want to try to play with the French or with the English or with whatever. Hello, Middle-aged gamers. I hope you are doing great. We are only 80 minutes late tonight, which actually is not too bad. Congrats to Krian who got his PC back, which means it's a return of the fan. And that's why I am hosting, so sorry you'll have to suffer my terrible accent for a while. And with that said, we are gonna go straight to Adam, but before we go to Adam, remember please to like, subscribe, and share, and leave us comments. We are very happy to talk to you. So with this, Adam, please tell us about Yoko Taro.
Yeah, Yoko Taro. He's the guy who does 𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙦𝙦, 𝙎𝙪𝙦𝙦, 𝙎𝙪𝙦𝙦, all those games, and he's pretty famous for his storytelling, as he's very all over the place and weird but really good at it. So, of course, he has a lot of fans, and those fans thought, hey, you know what we should do? We should collect everything he's done, because he has a habit of going, again, all over the place. Not only are the games canon, 𝙃𝙚𝙧𝙩 and 𝙎𝙪𝙦 are related to each other, but also the stage plays are canon. The raid quest from Final Fantasy XIV is considered canon in the 𝙎𝙧 franchise. Various comic books, various books and novels. With 40K, where if you want to have everything, you have to be consuming all sorts of media. And they said, you know what? We need one single place where you can get a lot of this media, especially because it's pretty easy for a lot of it to disappear. Just earlier in April, they had the mobile game 𝙎𝙪 Reincarnation went offline, and now there's no way to play it. So if you haven't played it, the only way you're going to get the story is by watching a YouTube video or something like that, because it's just gone forever. And it is canon, and it is a part of the story. As I said, a lot of the fans wanted to put all this stuff together into a single archive where you could find everything and then just go through it, and you could absorb as much Yoko Taro as you wanted to. And Yoko Taro, actually back in April, around the same time that 𝙎𝙪 Reincarnation went offline, said, hey, guys, great. Thanks for doing this. This is amazing. I love it. Now all my stuff is in one place. It's the guy he is. He's always talking about the same thing with when, was it 𝙎𝙪 Automata came out? And people would just post these pictures of 2B. And he was like, I love my sexy pictures of 2B, but it's really hard to keep up with all the art everyone's doing. If somebody could just collect all the pictures of the week, put them into a zip file, and distribute them to all of us, that would be fantastic. I would love it. Thank you. Please do that. So he loves it when people do these sort of things. But some months later, now Square Enix, who owns the IP, decided, hey, you know what? We don't want all this stuff online, because we want people to buy these books, or we want people to attend the stage plays if they want to know the story. We don't want them just to be able to read it online. And so because of that, they have given a cease and desist, or not quite, but they have asked Accord's library, which is the archive that people have put together, to remove at least 90% of their content. So all like the comics, because a lot of their content is scans of official documentation. It might be a scan of the stage plays script or something like that. And they don't want those things out in the wild. So they've asked everyone to get rid of those. So if you are a big fan of Yoko Taro and you want to catch up on things, you have until October 31st to go ahead and check all those out. And there's a lot on there. The games themselves are not, there are no ROMs or anything like that. You can't just download the games. But any kind of print media is there, all the comics, and like I said, everything. There's translations of a lot of it. Check it out and catch up on your 𝙎𝙪 and 𝙃𝙃𝙧𝙦 and 𝙎𝙪𝙦 and everything else, because the lore runs deep on this one. So
that's a shame, but maybe Mr. Taro can start making a series of books. I'm sure it already exists, right? Some series about the lore of all of these games.
the thing is that there are books, but it's 40K, where these are like books that are, what's the word? They're complimentary, and he doesn't necessarily, I don't know how much of a say he has on all of it. The other thing is that he technically is freelance, and the IP is owned by Square Enix. So even though he is the creator, he's the one attributed to all of it, he technically doesn't own it himself. And so that's why, even though he was thanking people for making this archive, Square Enix can still come along and say, hey, take this down, and he can't do anything about it because technically he's just been hired by them to work on the IPs. I mean, a lot of companies do this. It's the same thing like at Google, where if you work at Google and you're working on some sort of personal project or something like that, then they say, since you're working for us, technically we own it now. So that way you don't have people doing these little side projects and whatnot. But in this case, also he was hired to do the job. It wasn't like he was working at Square Enix and did this on the side. It was, they were like, hey, we want you to make a game. Here's some money. And he's like, all right, sure, let me make you a game. And then he did.
All right. Thanks for the story. And now we are going to Korean for some Amiibo story.
Nintendo Switch owners, you might have been playing Echoes of Wisdom like many other people in the world. I think something like 3.2 million copies is sold so far since the start of its sale at the end of September or the beginning of October. I don't remember the date. And you might be a new Switch owner. You might be a skeptical Switch owner. You're like, I've seen these things in my local game store or my local Switch store. What do they do, right? How does it work? And I have, I think 4 Amiibos, 3 or 4 Amiibos. And I'm like, they just sat there in the box. And I'm like, okay, do I have to take them out of the box? They look pretty. If you look behind me, all my stuff is in boxes. I have very few things that are outside of boxes, with the exception of the Batman, that Batman and that Batman, because they were given to others. I don't like to take stuff out of boxes, but unfortunately, for most Amiibos, you do have to take them out of the boxes. So today I want to talk about Echoes of Wisdom and Amiibos in general, because Amiibos are cool. They're like, you can see a Funko Pop over there, and Amiibos are about the same price. They're roughly about $20, a little bit cheaper in Asia in a sense, but like a few dollars cheaper, like 15 or 16 US dollars. They're probably $20 on the higher side, maybe $30, $40 if you're getting some really big multi-scene Amiibos with a few different characters. And they're made in China, of course, like most of these things are. But even still, like, the quality is pretty good. It's pretty solid, pretty hefty. This might look to you like very plasticky, but it probably weighs 300 to 400 grams if I'm just holding it right there. And so what you do is, if you have a collection of Amiibos, if you have Amiibos, or if you just bought Echoes of Wisdom, you can go online, and I've included a link with this to Adam's, which I've sent to Adam, which basically tells you these are the Amiibos that you can use for this game to get extra stuff. And a lot of the stuff, not a lot, like probably about 50% of the stuff for most games is just basically outfits, right? Like this Amiibo I got over here gives this outfit for Zelda. Outfits have some benefits in Echoes of Wisdom. I don't remember what the benefits. I literally have not tried the outfit since my PC is working. And this Amiibo gives you ingredients for smoothies. So that might sound like, what? A smoothie? What is that going to do? But basically, in Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, you get to make your own health potions. And all these health potions have different effects. And because this is my second Zelda game, because I hated Breath of the Wild, so maybe this is a thing in Zelda games. I have no idea. But in Echoes of Wisdom, right, you make these smoothies, and these smoothies are basically health potions, and each health potion does different things. One might make you immune to fire for a minute. One might make you immune to frost for a minute. One might make you glow, and I still don't understand what glow is, but I've taken it a bunch of times to heal. And you, as you play in the game, you pick up all these ingredients like grapes and apples and seahorses. Surprisingly, you blend the seahorses to make a smoothie. That sounds horrible, but that's what happens in the game. But yeah, and you get these smoothie ingredients, and you're like, cool. So when I was a kid, I don't know how Adam and Antoine were, but my parents gave us, what would that be now? $3 a month to spend. That was your allowance, your spending money, or whatever the term is, right? Like a lingqian, you'd say in Taiwan. And I spent all my money in books. So I had 0 toys. I think the only toy I had as a kid was like a Sopwith Camel that I built, which is an old World War II fighting plane. And so now, as an adult, that's what I spend extra money on, is loads and loads of Batman, because if I could buy more Green Arrow stuff, I would. But yeah. So if you're a middle-aged gamer or an older person and you like to collect stuff, Amiibos are a great option because they function as something for the games that you play. And Nintendo has come out in an indirect way and saying, hey, yes, these Amiibos will work for the Switch too. So when the next Zelda game comes out, you can basically scan it in there and put it back on your shelf, or put it back in your glass display cabinet case, and you'll be able to use them. That being said, if there's a Switch 3, I don't think they're going to be that same way, but it still looks nice. It's pretty resistant because I have really oily hands and I have not messed it up just yet. But others, yeah, those are Amiibos. Check them out for Echoes of Wisdom. Check them out for almost all Switch games. I would say first-party Nintendo Switch games. It's very rare you might get a Switch game from a Stardew Valley or something like that. But every Mario game, you can use your Amiibos from like previous Mario games. You can use them all in modern Mario games. And they work pretty well.
Yes, marketing genius at Nintendo. These have made lots of money for them Amiibos.
Oh, I was going to ask, Adam, didn't Sony have something like this similar? Not like Amiibos, like things you could scan in on your PlayStation somehow, or
not that I know of.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't think
sure
they've
about
ever
that.
had anything
but
like
that,
that.
I guess the closest thing would have been like you talk about Monster Rancher, I think they had to put in discs of.
Yeah, but yeah, the closest would probably be Monster Rancher, but Monster Rancher was different because Monster Rancher, what it was is it would read the data on your disc and then generate a monster from that, and you could just use any CD, or in the case of Monster Rancher 4 or the ones on the PS2, any CD or DVD. And they did have some that had specific monsters, like for example, if you had, I think, the original Matrix on DVD, then it would create a specific monster. But that was, yeah, they weren't necessarily, I don't know, was Matrix Sony Pictures or not? I don't
Yes.
know. But was it? Okay. But certain things like might have a specific monster, but there were actually ways to replicate it too, because you could actually just take a burned CD and then put that in there, and then it would randomly generate a monster, and there's always a chance that the data on this disc would generate one of these rare monsters anyway. So yeah, it wasn't like an Amiibo in the sense that they were so specific and there were a limited of them. It was just every CD that ever existed in the universe would create something. And that was part of it, was that you were supposed to try every CD you possibly had. And then from there you would go out and then mix and match your monsters. But yeah.
All right, and with this, we're gonna go to my story. Actually, I have two stories on the same topic, which is Subnautica. I love the first game. I loved second game, which actually should be 1.5 now, because I'm sure you have seen the trailer teaser of Subnautica 2. I'm gonna talk about it, but not right now. So stay until the end of the show, please, because I'm gonna talk about the Subnautica 2 later. Right now, I want to talk about concept artist Alex. I don't know if it's Ries, or Ries, so I'm very sorry for, I'm going to call you Alex. And he revealed a few pages of, he's going to get a concept art book called Other Worlds that you can find on Kickstarter. Not yet. He didn't release a date or price yet, but soon you will have a concept art called Other Worlds, which is more than 300 pages of content, which looks absolutely amazing. So why I'm talking about this guy, he worked on Subnautica Below Zero. He worked on Moonbreaker. He possibly worked on Subnautica 2, but I couldn't get this information confirmed, so he should just tell me. But really, that's really cool art, right? So he describes it as, and I quote, a culmination of decades of work passing through traditional illustration, concept art, and even sculpture. There's the kind of book Alex says he always adored as a child, one filled with creature, machine, life from other worlds, which really talks to me, and I'm sure it talks to you too. So it's going to be, I'm sure, an amazing book, and I'm going to order it right away as soon as it gets out on Kickstarter. So since there's no date right now, you can apparently, and I never tried, but you can go on Kickstarter and maybe wishlist it the same as on Steam, or at least get a newsletter on whatever it's released. You will have a notification. Korean is using Kickstarter way more than me, so maybe you know how it works. But basically, you can get notified when it comes out. And I don't know how it's going to work, because Kickstarter is usually like a different tier. You can give like $5 for just a book, $10, $20 for X and X. So I don't know exactly what's going to change with the book. Is he going to give goodies, or is the book going to get bigger? The more money you give, or maybe he's going to give you a signed copy, say, thanks for buying my book. I don't know, but I just can't wait for this project. I really think it's amazing. And you can see already, I found it on GamesRant, but I'm sure you can see it in the news, right? Just to put Alex Ries, you will see a bit the concept art that he already put online. They look amazing. So yes, if you're really into it like me, and I'm sure that lots of us are, then check it out. Alex Ries. I'm sorry for destroying your name. Do you guys like this kind of concept book? Like when you buy a collector edition and you have this big steel book with all the concept art of a game?
Oh yeah, I always love this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of looking at some of these things. It really reminds me of when I was a kid, my grandparents had this book called I think it was Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials. And what it was is the whole book was just each page was a different alien creature from some work of fiction. So you might have something from was it Childhood's End, The Overlords, or something like that, and then you have these things from Voyage of the Space Beagle, and you have the weird alien things from A Wrinkle in Time. But what they would do is they would basically write a little blurb on the side about just something about the alien, which describes what they are in the book, and then on the other page would be they would hire various artists to do concept art for these aliens because there is no official art because they are from books and stuff. And as a kid, I just absolutely ate that sort of stuff up. I just absolutely loved it. And looking at this, it really reminds me of that because it just has kind of the similar thing where it shows like a creature or a machine of some kind, and then they have a description of what it's supposed to be and, what it was like, oh, these little grasping arms are for this, then that, or sort of thing. So I always love this sort of stuff. I always find it really interesting.
Krian, are you into
Oh, yeah, I think I've only bought 2 from Kickstarter, but from different people. And they're like, one is an independent artist. One was a guy who worked for Dungeons & Dragons or worked on Dungeons & Dragons art. And it was basically a book of dragons. And when I was a kid, being a fantasy geek and stuff, I loved dragons. And I had a calendar with just literally different kinds of dragons from the Dungeons & Dragons universe. And so I had one of those things. And maybe you guys have been familiar with this. I was heard of the kind of thing of a coffee table book, right? Like a book you put under your coffee table, you put on top of your coffee table. I don't understand that, but that's why I got a lot of these to look at sometimes. They're nice glossy pages. On Kickstarter, you should definitely keep a look at because some people offer some really cool like advantages. Like they might, for one tier, you might get like very basic printed on, and it looks good, but it's not like, it doesn't have this like thick grain paper and high gloss images and that sort of stuff. Some of the high levels for these kind of books might have the author signing like 100 copies or 200 copies. Some of them you can get a PDF first, and it was like, hey, I'm going to send you a PDF of this book, and you can print it out now, and then you'll get the book in the mail 6 months later or 9 months later, right? So the cool thing about these sort of books or concept art sort of stuff is that you're not waiting. My Time May Ever Shine is 2 years later, the Kickstarter. That's the earliest we're going to get the game, probably later, because most games and hardware on Kickstarter, the 2 books that I got were never delayed. They were just delayed by the fact that Adam and I live on an island far away from most other places, which is why things take a long time to get here unless you're Amazon. So that's the only delays. But yeah, if I was in a reading mind, I would probably buy more of these. But after the last one I bought probably 2 years ago, I just don't buy them anymore. But there's definitely, if you look at these kinds of books or if you appreciate them more than once every few years, that they're definitely worth it.
That's cool. So it makes me want to buy it even more. And with that said, we're all a little celebration, but be careful when you go to some events because Adam has some news for you on this and it's not pretty.
No, it's not. So this showed up in our Discord. If you have news that you guys want us to cover, feel free to pop into the Discord and throw something up there because, yeah, we do pull from there sometimes. But this was brought to our attention through that. Now, it is a bit of old news, but it is important news, and so it is something that is worth talking about. But at TwitchCon this year, and if you remember a couple of years ago, was it last time or last year or whatever, there was the controversy of the girl who jumped into the foam pit and broke her back. The bad news just keeps coming because this time there was an incident with illicit substances being put into people's drinks that they didn't want there. So what happened was there was an after party. Obviously, at TwitchCon, you get a lot of these kind of, what do you call them? You get YouTubers, people like us, technically, but much higher ranking than us, and they want to have fun. And some of those groups are, what do you call them? VTubers. And so the VTubers, when they go, they don't want people to see their faces because that's the whole thing, right? The whole thing is that they hide, or they don't hide, but they are behind this VTuber persona and they don't necessarily want their privacy invaded. So when they choose which parties or which activities to attend, they're very selective. And a lot of times they might either wear a mask or something like that, or they're going to go do events that they feel much safer because there's going to be a much stronger vetting process. So there's not just anybody's going to be there. They're going to feel like they're in a much safer environment. And one such environment was called a party called the After Party, and it was held by Blurp, BLERP, and then Xmeld. I don't know if Meld was another person holding the event or not, but they were holding an event. And so supposedly this was very exclusive. There were only 350 people, I think, that were supposed to be there. And a lot of them were VTubers. This was a place where a lot of VTubers thought, hey, I can be safe here. They're not just going to be letting anybody in. You have to have a VIP pass and you get a +1. So it's all going to be other VTubers and at least one of their friends. So it should be a relatively safe place. And then also this Blurb person has been holding events in the past and they've gone pretty well. And one of the things that they posted on the site was, we have 0 tolerance for physical, verbal, or sexual harassment. This includes non-consensual touching, violence, discriminatory language, or any behaviors that have a negative impact on the experience or physical safety of our guests. So they were assuring people's safety, so people felt that they were fairly safe there. Also, there was no streaming at the venue. VTubers could remain anonymous. Nobody's going to be posting your face online. So a lot of them went because they thought it was going to be a great thing. But then one of them, I believe her name is Emuki, EMUKI, stated after the fact that, hey, I went to this thing and I started feeling woozy and I started feeling funny. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that somebody slipped something into my drink at this party because I was in the hospital. So they just posted a warning to people. And then later on came back and said, yeah, actually, while I was there, I did start to feel a little woozy. So I went to the bar and went to the bartender because they were somebody I had befriended earlier. And I told them that I thought somebody had slipped something in my drink. And I discovered that actually they had drink covers on site, but they weren't distributing them. So they had them and they just weren't using them. So that was odd because supposedly they were supposed to be using them, but they weren't. And so they just posted this up. Blurpy, who hosted the event, responded saying, that's not true. Drink covers were not available at the time, but I'm very sorry to hear what happened. If you want to DM me directly, we can talk about it. So a lot of people weren't very happy with the way they handled that because they were like, why are you trying to handle this in the DMs? Why aren't you being more open about this? Another YouTuber came out and said, yeah, this is same thing happened to me and a friend of mine. And I have had this happen to me before. So I knew what the symptoms and signs were. So as soon as it was happening, I was very aware and made sure to get out of there. And my friend ended up in the hospital. So yeah, if you're just at any of these events, any kind of con or anything like that, especially if you're at these parties, be careful. Don't it's one thing to keep your drink in your hand, but also keep it within line of sight. Don't just put it off to the side or anything like that. Be very careful. Use drink covers. If you do have to leave it with somebody you trust, and I'm not talking about like somebody that you met at the bar. I'm talking about somebody that you've known for years that was probably not going to do that. Or I shouldn't say probably. Somebody that you are assured will not do that. But yeah, and then again, also one of the other things was another YouTuber came out and said this was supposed to be an exclusive event, but the thing is the way to get in was a QR code, and they were reusing QR codes because people might leave and come back in. There was a case or two where they would get in and then they would just send the QR code to their friend, and then their friend would come in using the same QR code. So they were at capacity, and then the fire marshal had to come in and get people to leave because they had too many people there. Just be careful. And yeah, if you go to any sort of social gathering like this, we're gamers, we want to have fun, but this isn't fun. So don't do it. And if you are there, I know it's not enough I don't want to blame the victim, so I'm not, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't protect yourself, because me telling other people, hey, don't do that, doesn't mean they won't. Make sure you're safe. Stick with the buddy system. Don't go alone, but try to have fun and be careful. Not fun news. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Good thing is that we are middle-aged gamers, so most of us are introvert and we're not doing that much party. Like, I'm just thinking 350 is exclusive. I would have choked or there. But no, I understand. Yeah, we have to be careful on this. All right. And we're going to lighten up the mood a little bit and go back on the Kickstarter news. Krian, all up to you.
So guys, there's one thing I like. It is card games. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. Because I went to an all boys school, like most kids my age in South Africa did. People were like, "Oh my God, you're a geek, fight time," or whatever. So I could never talk about my love of card games or Magic or anything like that. I always wanted to play Magic, but there were 3 guys in my high school age group who did, and let's say they did not have a good time. So I had to decided to not be in that group to write Edgeworth. But anyway, that story aside, I'm here to talk about a name, Jordan Weissman. And you might know him from Battletech. You might know him from Crimson Skies, which is a game I didn't play Crimson Skies because that was what my younger brother played. It's very much similar to what we were talking about before the show. Because Antoine played Subnautica Below Zero, I will never play it because I just watched him. And it's the same with what did Adam play that I wanted to play? It's like Other Side. Yes. Same thing. Watch too much of Adam playing it, never gonna play the game despite it looking really cool with some interesting mechanics. But yes, there are some Jordan Weissman has come out with I feel like there's a lot of games coming out recently because I like to watch a lot of these sort of indie games with a mix of RPG and card play elements, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's making a party game with cards, and some of the art, it looks decent. Is not the most prettiest game, but again, it is going to be an accessible game. It's going to have wonderful card art, which is what you care about in most of the time. So in this deck building RPG, you sail freely among the port towns of the Spanish and English, as well as the uninhabited islands of the Caribbean, hunting ships to plunder and hearts to break as you advance from Scallywag to Parry King or Queen. Looking at the Kickstarter page, it looks very much open world in a sense that you have a choice, you can do what you want. I played a game in the SteamWorld franchise, which was very much similar to this, but this was very much a linear system of, hey, point A to point B, you'll have some battles, and through the battles, you'll do some card action, which is cool. And I like these games as well, because if you were tired of the Black Myth Wukongs, yes, I said it, where you have to focus and you have to use all those reflexes that have diminished as you've gotten older, this is the perfect game where you just have to think and outsmart the AI, and you're not having to play PvP or fighting someone who has better cards than you, right? This is just playing against the computer, and I'm not the person to talk about story, but most of these games have a somewhat decent story, but the cool thing is the cards. The cool thing is the combat. The cool thing is the different combinations of things you can do. So one of the things with this I wanted to mention as well is, unlike my time at Evershine with the live sim farms and gaming craze being totally through the roof, this game is $61,000 out of $100,000. So there's 24 days to go. And that being said, this game has a chance of not being funded. So I want to remind everyone, no matter, as we're talking about with Antoine's Kickstarter before, is Kickstarter things, if they don't get funded, you don't get the thing. And you do get a refund, of course, right? So don't worry about that. The other thing also to consider is, even if it does get funded, things might happen. A famous game I funded was very much like Project Zomboid. Check out Adam's streaming that. That's pretty fun. That guy was making it with a friend of his, and they got into legal troubles, and they went to court, and all the Kickstarter money went to fighting between each other, and that game was never made, right? That was, I think, a €35 loss at that time. So keep that in mind. Kickstarter games are not a guarantee. If you give someone money, it's not like going to GameStop or going to EB Games or going to wherever the French store equivalent is in France of that.
Micromania.
Yes, you sent us the link before. Yes, going to Micromania. So it doesn't mean because you give money, you get the thing. So keep that in mind. But that being said, if you do want to take a gamble, some Kickstarters are more of a gamble than others. And looking at this, it looks like a gamble. Again, some games, the Kickstarter rule is roughly 30% of your funding comes in the last 72 hours of a game. I've talked to a few Kickstarter founders back in the day, and this is what they say. You could hope they reach that $100,000 goal, but this is, to me, this was just looked amazing. Wonderful art, turn-based action, cards, you do what you want to. It's mostly open. It's not like other sort of card-playing RPGs. There's a romance system as well. It looks pretty well, and it's backed by a famous, somewhat famous guy who's done a few Kickstarter projects, like 13 to be exact. There's a lot going for this, but at the same time, pirates are no longer a thing. I only remember the Robin Williams, Peter Pan, that sort of stuff. That was like a cool pirate thing back in the day. I feel like looking at Kickstarter these days, the games that tend to get most funded are the sort of indie pixel art stuff. The farming stuff, of course, is always hot. Pirate card games is going to be a very hard sell. That being said, I already gave my money. So I'm praying that we need another, $39,000 in the next 24 days in order to get funded. But yeah, if you're looking for pirates, if you're looking for cool cards and awesome mechanics, and you like Battletech, this is something for you to consider.
And of course, you'll have the link with the video. So if you want to take a look at the Kickstarter, I guess they have a trailer or at least something explaining the project. Feel free and fund it if you like. Absolutely. And with this, I'm going to finish with the last story of today. It went very fast again, so that's nice. We are on time, lads. And I'm going to go back on Subnautica 2. Subnautica 2 will begin its early access early 2025. And if you recall what they did on Below Zero, for instance, but they did the same on the first one, they stay at least 6 to 8 months in early access, and the guy from, I think it's Unknown Worlds, they listen to the community a lot and they're really cool and open. So I really advise you to play the early access. Of course, you have to expect the fact that your characters, there won't be voiceover. It was like this for Below Zero, right? There's no voice acting. It's bare bones. It's really bare bones. But you can do that and say, oh, guys, I think it would be very cool if there's this, and they will listen to you and they will prepare the game. And when it's fully released, you're going to enjoy it a lot. Because the two first games were pretty much a good success, right? They got a bit ambitious. So it's going to feature a larger, deeper map than its predecessor. And why it's called Subnautica 2, when there was already 1 and Below Zero, so I guess Below Zero is 1.5. It's because this one is not going to be on the 4546B. And I think that's why it's 2. It's a sequel, but not the same planet. Although we are going back in the tropic and I think a kind of warm environment, which I'm very happy about, because as much as I love Below Zero, I live in Canada, I'm going to have 6 months of winter. I really like to have my hot pattern video game. That's just me. I got a couple of stuff straight from the Steam page, right? But in there, I say, you're a pioneer traveling to a distant world, but something is amiss. The ship's AI insists you carry on the mission. This world is too dangerous for humans to live unless you change what it means to be a human. What creature intelligence or otherwise await your arrival? If you recall in the first one, there was already this ancient alien. It's always tied to aliens, right? This Subnautica, so it's going to be quite fun mystery to explore. There's going to be apparently an ability for players to enhance their abilities through alien DNA, apparently from the various fish and creatures that you can find across the planet. I thought it was a new feature. Apparently, it's something that they wanted to put on the first game, but it was not implemented. So they are getting it back for game number, well, I'm going to say 3, even if it's 2. And you're going to, of course, get all the staples, the spice of this game, which is craft submersible, new tools, new base, new biomes, new everything. You have seen in the trailer that one-person pod, which is not like the first game C-mod or the Below Zero kind of truck, like train truck, which was actually quite cool, but a bit inconvenient. It's really hard to run from predators with this. So that's why I like C-mod best. But yeah, it's going to be very fun. And what's I find very scary, I forgot to mention, if it's too scary for you, you can play up to 4 players, right? So you can explore the map with 4 players in this one. And what I find in trailers very scary, but you can see the guy scanning, he's in the shallows, so shallows are usually pretty safe, right? He's fine, you can see he's not deep because you can see the sun, clear water, and all of a sudden he's sucked into a vent. He's without oxygen, very deep in the water, in the total dark. So imagine that in the shallows, there's going to be this vent that you don't necessarily see, and you're going to get sucked into it. That's going to be terrifying because the shallows are not safe anymore. I don't know if it's going to be implemented, but I saw that and I like, whoa. And of course, to finish the trailer with a bang, you see a brand new Leviathan, one of these deep sea creature, all light and jelly and terrifying, which could just eat your poor little pod in half. But that's it. No, the trailer is absolutely amazing. Early 2025 is not that far. It's only 3 months away, 4 months. We can expect maybe a full game release either end of 2025, maybe early 2026 at worst. But still, we will be able to have fun and craft and all. I don't know if it's going to be like the two first, but in the first two games, all your early access game is lost. When you start the brand new game, you don't get your save and use it for the full game. But again, the early access is an early access. It's for you to look at the bugs, the stuff that you like and all, and help the developers make it into a fantastic game. The first two was fantastic. The three is going to be the bomb. So I really advise you that you wishlist it on Steam right now, like I did an hour ago. And I will see you over there. And 4 people, exploration is going to be very fun. And that's it for my last story of the day. So, guys, I'm going to, because it's the end, I'm just going to do the same announcement again. Please subscribe, leave us a comment, share. We're still a small channel and we want to grow. So that's all thanks to you. Join our Discord. Please tell us if there's anything you saw in the news and you want to talk about. Again, you can, like Noble Cooper, come in our chat and talk to us during the live show every Monday at 9 p.m. in Canada, Tuesday 9 a.m. in Taiwan. And it's going to change, of course, in 2 weeks when the time is going to change, but we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. And with this, guys, what are you playing these days?
I'm back to Coral Island after now that my computer is up and ready, I installed my liquid cooling inside. So it's just that I miss Echoes of Wisdom in a sense. But no, I'm going to try and finish Coral Island hopefully before I get a Steam Deck, because once I get a Steam Deck in December for my birthday, I want to play Cassette Beasts, which is a collectible Pokemon-like game that so many people have talked about that I've wanted to try, but I don't know where I sit in front of a computer and play it. Yep, Coral Island, and then Cassette Beasts, and maybe Echoes of Wisdom, or we'll see. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just jumping all over the place. Mondays, I'm doing Project Zomboid. Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm doing Dead Space. On my own time, I'm still questing through some of the side quests on, and getting gear. I'm gearing up in Final Fantasy 14. And now my friends and I have picked up Space Marine 2, so we're playing that. And then occasionally I'll even jump still into Zone Zero or Helldivers and do some of the daily quests. So I'm all over the place, and I'm like, oh man, I need to get back to one game. This is not, I feel like I'm making zero progress in anything because I'm working on everything.
The busy calendar.
Yeah, it's just like a different game every day, and I'm like, we just need to get November so I can get to Slitterhead and be like, okay, one game, focus. All right, great, perfect.
And on my side, I finished the vanilla game of Two Point Campus. I haven't bought the DLC because I had no campus for a while, but I might at some point because it's a really good game. And I tried a couple of hours of Ara History Untold, which is the civilization like you can have for free on PC Game Pass. I was not convinced at all. And usually I really like Civilization game, despite the fact that it takes a lot of mechanics from Civilization. I find it not intuitive at all. It's not pretty in the fact that your troops are represented by an image. Yeah, just not convinced. I only played an hour or two, so definitely I don't have all the spice from diving into a game and looking at all the mechanics as lots of leaders, lots of nations that you play differently with lots of different stats and all. And yet after 2 hours, I was like, no, the hook was not. It's like a video. You need a strong hook to get you into the game and say, yeah, I want to know more. I want to try to play with the French or with the English or with whatever. I didn't have this. You will please tell me, is something that I should power through the first few hours of gameplay to get some interest in it? But really, just for me, the troops, the movement across the map, it's not smooth. That's it. It's not smooth. It's not intuitive. It lacks. It's really lackluster, basically, yeah. Because of this, I moved right away to Frostpunk 2, where I played only the introduction. Looks fantastic. Looks like people are getting really frozen very fast. As I said, I prefer the tropics rather than that. I'm going to enjoy it, I'm sure, but I'm going to try to finish it very quick because it's getting cold here in Canada. I'm going to try to finish this before it actually starts snowing here. And yeah, that's it for today's show. And unless you guys have something to add.
I have a quick question for you guys. If
Go
you
ahead.
had to do a challenge, a gaming challenge for Mag, and as an example, someone reported this week that a YouTuber is trying to play every single game ever made. That is his stick. He's going to play every game ever made. So I don't think he's going to try and finish everything, but he's going to try and play every game ever made from the dawn of time.
Not enough hours in a human lifetime.
But I mean, if you just play every game like an hour, possible. I think it's possible. It would be an interesting thing for somebody to watch, right? Like I would like to.
There's a lot of indies.
No way.
I mean, it's
Absolutely
you could do in theory, you could do 8 games a day if you're setting it as 1 hour per game, or even more than that. You could do 30 games a day if you're just doing it for running it, playing it for 10 minutes. But anyway, what would your challenge be if you had to do a challenge? If we're raising money for cancer or whatever it is, if you wanted to stream something for let's say at least 3 months, what would your challenge be?
For me, that would be either doing something that I really enjoy, like a management or maybe a card game. Like I don't know much about card game, but I know that I would enjoy it. Or something that I truly hate, like horror game, like playing Silent Hill 2, for instance. I would truly hate it. That would be challenging. And you would see me pacing myself from my chair. Oh my God, I really don't like that. That would be a challenge for me. But for a good cause, I would do it. And by the way, the guy wants to play every single game ever made. I hope he has a lot of money because this would be a lot of money to buy every game ever made.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, it's hard. The only thing that comes to mind is I usually play games pretty casually. So I don't know, maybe pick a game like Apex or something like that has a ranked system and see if I can make it to the top rank.
Okay. Rank number 1 for
not the top player. Not the top player. They have like diamond tier and all that. See if I can make it to the top tier. I would fail. I can tell you that right now. But an attempt would be made.
So we can try to have a League of Legends mag team.
Oh my God, that would be awful. But yeah, we could.
Yes.
That would just be so awful. But it'd be a lot of fun along the journey.
True. For me, I would like to do, I've thought about this for a long time. I'd like to do one different, happy, positive mental health game every day for 3 months. Yeah. So I'm good enough. My Steam collection is like 800 games is enough. And I could buy more. There's so many good, fun, artistic, beautiful games that keep you happy. I'd like to, do one every single day, stream it, record a video, and release it. Yeah. That would be my thing. I'd one ish, and then at the end of it, here, by Crane Padiachi from Middle Age Gaming showcase. How much would that be? 150 positive, happy games, and that could be a nice montage.
150. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of numbers of games, I looked it up. So I just typed into Google about how many games are there, and it says there's about 5 million games out there. So if you played each game for 1 hour, it would take you 570 years to complete.
Holy mother!
Good luck.
There's no way this person is playing every game that ever existed.
No way.
And not in any normal capacity. You'd have to play even a minute of every game wouldn't get you. You couldn't finish in a.
True.
That's not including loading times or sleeping or anything else.
And that's not even including all the games that are simply not playable because it's too old. The game doesn't exist. There's no. Do you have a ROM for an Atari
Lost Media.
2600 or all of this old stuff? Now you'd have to put say every game from.
Yeah, there would have to be a limit. Maybe
you do that. Every game released in 2024. Yeah, that's doable. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe
That's
every
really
game
horrible,
released in
but
his
okay.
lifetime. I can imagine it's a dude, must be someone, a younger 20-something YouTuber.
Good luck.
Yes.
It's like trying to read every book in existence.
Oh, that would be
It's just one of
terrible.
those
I mean,
things that's like,
there's so many books and so many stories, not to mention all the languages. Oh,
You said play or finish every book?
play,
every
just
game.
play, not finish.
Okay, because I was thinking in the 20 years, there's been some Witchers, some Skyrims or something. If you want to finish all of
I
this.
don't know, I think it's for sure, but play I thought was a bit more reasonable. Just play it, look at it, do it. But yeah, like Adam said, I didn't realize it was going to be that big.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So you buy it, you play an hour, you get refunded, and then you go over your.
But yeah, I
mission.
hope he does it because I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna look whoever this person is and his Twitch, and I'll check in to see if he have. So like one of those guys who does like those Twitch things, and he has like a counter. This is what number I'm on. Game 1,236,431. I just tune in every week just to see the number go up.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Antoine.
Thanks, guys. So everybody, I hope you have a good evening or morning wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you next week same time.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.